Welcome to Audiobooks 831. Today, we explore the powerful wisdom from the timeless classic, The Richest Man in Babylon. This story carries the ancient secrets of money, wealth, and financial success that have guided generations toward prosperity. In the ancient city of Babylon, protected by massive walls and known throughout the world for its riches, merchants filled the markets. Traders traveled from distant lands. Gold flowed through the city like a shining river. Among the many hard-working men living in Babylon was a chariot builder named Bansia. Bansia was skilled with his hands and respected for his craftsmanship. His chariots carried wealthy nobles and powerful merchants across the city. But on this particular day, Bansia sat silently on the low wall outside his home, staring at an unfinished chariot. The sun was high above the city, and the streets were alive with noise and movement, but Bansia remained still. Lost in thought. Inside the house, his wife looked at him with concern because their food jars were nearly empty, and the purse that once held coins now contained almost nothing. Despite years of hard work, Bansia still struggled to build wealth and provide comfort for his family. At that moment, his friend Cobby walked down the dusty road toward him. Cobby was a musician who played the lyre at festivals and gatherings. He greeted Bansia, but quickly noticed the unusual sadness on his friend's face. Cobby asked why he sat idle when the day had already begun. Bansia slowly explained that he had been thinking about their lives. They had worked hard since they were young. They had earned coins many times, yet their purses always seemed empty again after a short time. Cobby nodded, because he had experienced the same struggle. The coins he earned from his music disappeared quickly on food, clothing, and daily living. Bansia then spoke about a dream he had the night before. In the dream, he carried a heavy purse filled with shining gold coins. He spent freely without fear. He bought beautiful ornaments for his wife and fine clothing for himself. Yet no matter how much he spent, the purse remained full. But when he awoke, the dream vanished, and he was left with the painful truth of his empty purse. That dream forced him to ask a powerful question. Why do some men become extremely rich, while others remain poor even though they work just as hard? Cobby suggested they visit the richest man in Babylon, whose name was Akkad. Akkad was known throughout the city for his enormous wealth and wisdom. People said he once lived as a poor young man, but eventually discovered the secrets of gold. Bansia immediately agreed, because if Akkad had once been poor, then perhaps the path he followed could be learned by others. The two friends walked through the busy streets of Babylon toward the home of Akkad. Around them, merchants displayed colorful fabrics. Traders argued over prices of spices, and grain jewelers showed sparkling gems to wealthy buyers. Gold flowed everywhere in the markets of Babylon, yet very little of it seemed to remain in the purses of ordinary men like Bansia and Cobby. Soon they arrived at the great house of Akkad. Servants welcomed them and guided them into a peaceful courtyard where Akkad rested in the shade. Akkad greeted them kindly. Bansia spoke honestly about their frustration. He explained that they worked hard, yet never managed to keep their money. Cobby added that they wished to understand the secret of acquiring wealth. Akkad listened patiently and smiled. He told them that many years earlier he had faced the same struggle. When he was young, he worked as a scribe copying clay tablets for merchants. His earnings were small, and his purse was always empty. But he possessed one powerful thing: a strong desire to become wealthy. One day, a wealthy money lender named Algamish came to the place where Akkad worked and asked him to copy a long document onto clay tablets. Akkad worked late into the night to finish the task. When Algamish returned, Akkad gathered courage and asked him to teach the secret of acquiring gold. At first, Algamish laughed, but eventually agreed to give advice. He told Akkad something simple yet powerful: a part of everything you earn must belong to you to keep. At first, Akkad did not fully understand these words, because like most people, he spent everything he earned on food, clothing, and small pleasures. But Algamish insisted that at least 1/10 of every coin Akkad earned must remain in his purse. Akkad followed the advice faithfully. Every time he received payment, he saved a portion and refused to spend it. Slowly, the coins in his purse began to grow. The progress seemed small at first, but it created a powerful change in Akkad's thinking. For the first time, he felt control over his future. Months later, Algamish returned and saw that Akkad had saved gold. The old lender approved, but gave another important lesson. He said saving gold was only the beginning. Gold must be made to work. so it multiplies and earns more gold. Arkad listened carefully and began learning how to invest his savings wisely. Slowly, his gold began producing more gold year after year. His wealth continued to grow until Arkad eventually became the richest man in Babylon. When Arkad finished telling his story, Bansia and Kobi realized something powerful. Wealth was not controlled by luck or destiny. It followed certain laws. Anyone who learned those laws and applied them could begin building wealth. As the sun slowly moved across the sky above Babylon, the two friends left Arkad's home with a new feeling of hope. Their purses were still empty, but their minds were now filled with knowledge, and they understood a powerful truth. The journey toward wealth always begins with wisdom. In the great city of Babylon, the king once returned from a victorious war and noticed something troubling. Gold had gathered in the hands of a few very rich men, while the majority of citizens struggled with empty purses. The king desired Babylon to become the richest city in the world, not because a few men were wealthy, but because many citizens possessed prosperity. For this reason, the king called the wisest and richest man of Babylon, whose name was Arkad, and asked him to teach the people how wealth is created. Arkad agreed, and gathered 100 men in a hall to share the knowledge he had learned through years of experience. He told them that wealth is not a mystery, and it is not a gift given only to few fortunate men. Wealth follows simple laws, and any man who understands those laws can begin to build a heavy purse. Arkad then began teaching what he called the 7 cures for a lean purse, which are simple steps that can transform poverty into prosperity. These cures are powerful because they are practical, and any man willing to follow them with discipline can change his financial future. The first cure, Arkad explained, was to start thy purse to fattening. He told the men that a part of all they earn belongs to them to keep. He said that when a man earns 10 coins, he should spend only 9 and keep 1 safely within his purse. By doing this consistently, the purse begins to grow heavier. With time, many people believe they cannot save money because their income is small, but Arkad explained that even the smallest income can produce savings if a man has the discipline to keep a portion of it for himself. The moment a man begins saving part of his earnings, he begins building the foundation of wealth. This simple habit is the beginning of financial freedom, because the coins saved today become the seeds of wealth tomorrow. Arkad explained that when he first followed this rule, he noticed something surprising. His lifestyle did not suffer even though he kept a portion of his income. Instead, his purse slowly became heavier, and the feeling of security brought him confidence and satisfaction. This is why the first cure is the most important, because without saving nothing else can begin. The second cure, Arkad explained, was to control thy expenditures. He reminded the men that what people call necessary expenses will always grow to equal their income unless they control them. Many people confuse their desires with their needs. They spend money on luxuries and comforts, believing they are necessities, and soon their entire income disappears. Arkad taught the men to carefully examine their spending and separate true needs from simple desires. He explained that every man has more desires than he can satisfy. Therefore, it is necessary to choose wisely. A man should create a budget that allows him to pay for necessities, enjoy life moderately, and still save a portion of his earnings. By controlling spending, a man gains power over his money instead of becoming a servant to it. Arkad told them that discipline in spending is not a punishment, but a path to freedom, because the money saved can later create wealth and opportunity. The third cure Arkad taught was to make thy gold multiply. He explained that saving money is only the beginning, because idle gold produces nothing. Gold must be put to work so that it earns more gold. When a man invests wisely, the coins he saved begin to reproduce like animals in a field, creating more and more wealth over time. Arkad told a story of a farmer who invested small amounts of silver for his son, and over many years, those coins multiplied into a much larger amount. This simple example showed how time and wise investment can transform small savings into great wealth. The lesson was clear that money should not sleep inside a purse, but should be sent to work, so it can bring back more coins for its owner. The fourth cure Arkad explained was to guard thy treasures from loss. He warned the men that many people lose their savings because they chase risky opportunities or listen to advice from those who lack experience. Gold is easily attracted by false promises and dangerous investments. Therefore, it must be protected carefully. A wise man studies opportunities carefully and seeks guidance from people who understand money and investments. Akkad reminded them that the first rule of investing is safety for the original money, because losing what has been saved destroys the progress a man has worked hard to build. By protecting wealth from loss, a man ensures that his treasure continues growing safely. The fifth cure Akkad shared was to make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. He explained that a man who owns his home gains stability, security, and lower living costs over time. When a family owns its dwelling, the payments they make eventually lead to ownership instead of disappearing. Like rent, owning a home also creates pride and comfort because the family lives in a place that truly belongs to them. This reduces long-term expenses and allows more income to be saved and invested for the future. The sixth cure Akkad described was to ensure a future income. He reminded the men that life is uncertain, and every man must prepare for the years when he is no longer able to work. A wise man saves and invests not only for present comfort, but also for the protection of his family and the security of old age. By preparing early, a man ensures that his later years will not be filled with hardship. This planning protects both himself and those he loves from financial struggle. The seventh and final cure Akkad taught was to increase thy ability to earn. He explained that the more knowledge and skill a man develops, the more valuable his work becomes. When a man improves his abilities, studies his craft, and gains wisdom, his income naturally grows. Akkad encouraged the men to seek learning, practice discipline, and become better in their professions, because opportunity always favors those who prepare themselves. A man who constantly improves his knowledge and skill will always find new ways to earn more gold. When Akkad finished explaining the 7 cures, the men realized that wealth was not created by luck or magic, but by habits, discipline, and knowledge. These 7 simple principles could transform any poor man into a prosperous one if he followed them faithfully day after day. And so the citizens of Babylon left that hall with a new understanding that the road to wealth begins not with gold, but with wisdom and the determination to change one's habits. In the prosperous city of Babylon, the wisdom of gold was respected as the greatest knowledge a man could possess, because gold had the power to transform a life of struggle into a life of comfort and freedom. After Akkad shared the 7 cures for a lean purse, many citizens began saving their earnings and controlling their expenses, yet some still wondered how gold truly behaves and why it sometimes grows in the hands of one man while disappearing from the hands of another. To answer this question, Akkad shared a story that revealed the 5 powerful laws that govern gold. These laws were once explained by a wealthy money lender named Calabab to his son Nomasiah, who was about to begin his journey to prove that he could create wealth through wisdom rather than inheritance. Nomasiah was the son of Akkad, and like many young men, he believed that possessing gold alone was enough to ensure success. But Akkad understood that wealth without wisdom quickly disappears. Therefore, he decided to test his son. He gave Nomasiah 2 gifts. The first was a bag filled with gold coins. The second was a clay tablet on which the 5 laws of gold were engraved. Akkad told his son to travel to distant lands and prove his ability to build wealth. If he returned after 10 years with more wealth than he started with, he would prove himself worthy of inheriting his father's fortune. Nomasiah accepted the challenge with confidence and began his journey across deserts and cities, carrying both the bag of gold and the tablet of wisdom. At first, Nomasiah relied only on the gold in his possession. He believed that fortune would naturally follow him because he had money to spend. But his confidence soon led him into poor decisions. He trusted the advice of friends who promised quick profits and easy success. One of these friends convinced him to invest in a racehorse, believing that they had secret information that guaranteed victory. But the horse lost the race, and the gold that Nomasiah invested disappeared instantly. In another situation, he invested with merchants who claimed they could buy rare jewels and sell them for great profit, but the jewels turned out to be worthless pieces of glass, and once again Nomasiah lost his money. With each mistake, the bag of gold grew lighter, until eventually he found himself nearly penniless in a foreign land. At that moment, Nomasiah finally remembered the clay tablet given by his father. He realized that he had ignored the wisdom written upon it because he believed his gold alone was enough to succeed. But now that his purse was nearly empty, he began reading the 5 laws carefully and understanding their deeper meaning. The first law of gold states that gold comes gladly and in increasing quantity to any man who sets aside at least 1/10 of his earnings to create an estate for his future and that of his family. This law reveals that gold favors the disciplined saver man who consistently saves part of his income, creates a growing reservoir of wealth, and over time, that wealth becomes powerful. The second law of gold states that gold labors diligently and contentedly for the wise owner who finds profitable employment for it, multiplying even as the flocks of the field. This means that gold grows when it is invested wisely instead of remaining idle. When money is placed into productive work, it creates more wealth through patience and intelligent planning. The third law of gold states that gold clings to the protection of the cautious owner who invests it under the advice of men wise. In its handling, this law teaches the importance of seeking guidance from experienced individuals. A wise investor learns from those who understand money rather than trusting random opinions or risky speculation. The fourth law of gold states that gold slips away from the man who invests it in businesses or purposes with which he is not familiar or which are not approved by those skilled in its keeping. This means that investing without knowledge is dangerous. A man must understand where his money goes and how it will grow, otherwise he risks losing everything. Fifth and final law of gold states that gold flees the man who forces it to impossible earnings, or who follows the alluring advice of tricksters and schemers, or who trusts it to his own inexperience and romantic desires for investment. This law warns against greed and unrealistic promises. Many people lose wealth because they chase opportunities that promise quick riches without effort. Gold respects patience, wisdom, and careful judgment, but it escapes from the hands of those driven by greed. After studying the 5 laws, Nomasiya realized that his failures had come from ignoring these principles. He decided to rebuild his fortune by applying the wisdom step by step. He began working with experienced merchants, learning the trade, and slowly saving part of his earnings. He invested carefully under the guidance of men who understood business and commerce. Over time, his savings began to grow, and the investments he made started producing profits. Years passed, and the bag of gold that was once empty slowly became heavy again. When the 10 years had passed, Nomasiya returned to Babylon to meet his father, Arkad. He proudly carried not only the original gold, but even more wealth earned through wisdom. He explained how he had lost the first bag of gold because of foolish decisions, but later rebuilt his fortune by following the 5 laws engraved on the clay tablet. Arkad listened carefully and smiled, because the lesson had succeeded. Nomasiya had learned that gold alone does not create wealth, but wisdom and discipline do. The 5 laws of gold are powerful because they reveal the true nature of money. Gold respects patience, intelligence, and careful planning. It grows for the wise owner who understands to guide it, but it disappears from the hands of the careless and the greedy. And so the people of Babylon learned that mastering the laws of gold was the key to building lasting wealth and financial freedom. And so the wisdom of Babylon continued to guide those who were willing to listen and learn. The ancient city, with its towering walls and golden markets, became more than a place of trade and riches. It became a symbol of timeless financial wisdom. The lessons shared by the wise men of Babylon were simple yet powerful. They revealed that wealth is not created by luck or sudden fortune, but by discipline, patience, and knowledge. Any man who chooses to follow these principles can begin transforming his life. The journey always begins with a single decision to control one's money, instead of allowing money to control one's life. By saving a portion of every earning, by controlling unnecessary spending, by making gold multiply through wise investments, and by protecting wealth from foolish risks, a person slowly builds a strong financial foundation. These habits may appear small at first, but over time they create extraordinary results, because wealth grows gradually like a tree whose roots deepen year after year. The stories of Bansi, Yakobi, Arkad, and Nomasiya remind us that the path to prosperity is available to anyone willing to learn, apply wisdom, and remain patient during the process. The world may change and centuries may pass, but the laws of money remain the same. Gold always seeks the careful owner who understands its nature and respects its power. Belief. Thank you for listening to Audiobooks 831, where timeless knowledge meets modern minds. If you enjoyed this audiobook journey, remember that the greatest investment you can ever make is in your own knowledge, because wisdom once learned continues to pay rewards throughout your entire life.